Aswatuna Podcast. Our voices, our identities.
أوها بديار رماني، أوها حلوة ملفاني، أوها حلفنا ما نقطفها، أوها العز شفاء السلامة.
How many of us travel for days, or he or she goes to work for long hours, then make their way home to rest? How many times have we heard the saying, home sweet home, especially the home we spend our childhood at, our memories and family gatherings? Most of us have the small details of the house memorized, and every event once lived there. But imagine that all this remains a memory, one that is mixed with a feeling of suffering and longing every time it's remembered. In this episode of Aswatuna Podcast, we will be telling various stories of internal displacement and of people who became foreigners in their homeland by living far away from their homes. The stories will be told from several countries.
From Palestine, my name is Sabrine, and I live in a place where thousands of people were forced to change their reality because another group has said they are the real owners of the land.
From Egypt, my name is Isra. I gave up the most important memory and place in my life.
From Tunisia, my name is Ines. We have a lot of people that changed their place in search of a better life, but were shocked by being treated as second-class citizens, and their lives became twice as difficult than before in order to make a living.
And from Iraq, I'm Tabarak al-Zubaydi. Forced displacement is not only because of war, but it can be of the bad reality we live in, including threats and instability we face. Welcome to this episode of Aswatuna Podcast.
I'll never forget that day. Our last day at home. I didn't want to leave, and I was just crying. I didn't feel like I was leaving a house and moving to another. I felt like I was leaving my whole life behind. This is the house I was born and raised at. I grew up here. It was not just a house. The walls held a complete life full of details. A life full of warmth, anger, playing, studying, success and celebrations of high school exams, college enrollment, and arguments with the neighbor's children over whose turn is to play with the PlayStation. My voice on my way back from school calling on my aunt to open the door, so I rest a little before I make my way to mother upstairs. And the sound of neighbor's door locking, letting me know that she's going to sit with my mom while I sit and listen to their stories. Our gatherings at my aunt's house as we stayed up all night watching TV in Ramadan, waiting for suhoor and the morning prayer. A real life. A life that I was suddenly asked to leave behind and go to another place. A place that has not witnessed anything of my life growing up. And it was supposed to feel like I belonged there. How? Where do I get all these memories that are heavily engraved inside me with their details in our old house? The image of the furniture being carried away to the moving cars is always on my mind. Every time I remember that, I feel the pain deep in my heart. I felt like they were carrying my life. I cannot pass by the area now. and if I have to, then I close my eyes in avoidance. The whole area was wiped off the ground, and its features had completely changed. I could understand leaving the house and other people living in it, but what I cannot comprehend until now is the idea of the whole house not being there anymore, and for the street to be erased from existence, as if it never existed. Where did my life and all my memories go? Wiping all of this from existence just because a person or a group of people wanted the area and had decided to change its features and build a few towers, thinking it would get them more money. It was not okay. Our homes were not random or old and about to collapse. No, they were strong, standing on their tricks, and could have stayed so until the end of history. We used to live in the heart of downtown, and now each of us is in a very far, far away area. I still see this house in my dreams, as if I am still there. Apparently because my soul is still there somehow. That's why all my dreams that include a home, I can only see our old home in them. My mind automatically translates the house to its image. The concept of home itself for me is connected to that place in particular and nowhere else. Every time I sleep, I dream as if I'm still there and all my life details are still going on in there, as if I have never left. 4 years have passed since, and I have moved between different places through these 4 years, but there was no place in them that I could call the home. I still can't believe that I had to get out of that house and leave everything behind.
Hello, I am Sabrine. I also went through a similar story. Maybe not exactly like Isra's, but the story is so famous, you have probably heard of it. For weeks, thousands of families took their children and ran away towards faraway villages and towns to protect themselves from getting killed and from danger. In 1948, thousands of families were forced to leave their towns and villages in Palestine. They had to get used to new places outside their usual reality until some of them died. They were displaced. They were kept away from their loved ones and relatives, and a large part ended up in other countries such as Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and others. Today, these families bear the consequences of what happened then. Armed groups entered. They killed people inside their homes. Those who were able to flee the villages, towns, and other remote areas live today to tell the story. Palestine became the new so-called State of Israel. When the families left, they couldn't carry anything with them. People left behind all their belongings, houses, and memories. Many others locked the doors of the houses and took their keys with them in hopes of returning someday. Some of the houses no longer exist. They have been wiped off the map and now are just a memory that ancestors knew of and grandchildren got to know about later on. In a situation similar to that of Isra, they dream of these houses that do not leave their memories in hopes of seeing them again, in hopes of returning to their memories and their lives in Palestine. As time passes, and for more than 70 years, they are still away from their homes, away from the green land which is full of olives and oranges they want to eat and touch its soil. The sense of displacement is repeatedly lived by these families as Israeli families settled on the land, took their homes, and wiped out the memories of these displaced families, some of which are unable to meet today as they are somewhere between the Arab countries and the diaspora.
Sabrine's story reminds me of stories we lived in Iraq that Yusuf might be able to tell better.
It was the beginning of the school year of 2006-2007, and my stress was at its peak because I had just started my grade 6 journey and the situation was very unstable in Diyala, where I lived. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Yusuf. I get carried away adding sugar to my tea and started speaking of the topic immediately. I remember my dad had a close friend whom he would always meet with because they both were doctors. One day he came to us and said that his friend was killed. And if his friend was killed today, then it's going to be him tomorrow. He told us we have a few hours to grab our essential needs that can fit in the car trunk. It was me, my 3 siblings, and my mom. We prepared our bags. I insisted I take my studying books with me because I couldn't wrap my head around leaving my grade 6 studying materials in a place where it would be difficult to get back to. I remember that we had a long argument with my dad at the time. He told me, "Son, take your clothes only. I'll buy you the books from there." I told him I may not find there what I found here. We came to Erbil. New place, new language. I couldn't speak the Kurdish language, even though some of my roots were Kurdish. I remember when we came here, the pressure was high. I was stuck between carrying on with my school year and dropping out. It all depended on the possibility of providing the registration paper at a new school in Erbil. And the people, they were simple at the time. They judged your roots through the language you spoke. I recall the neighbors' kids throwing stones at us when we moved in our first house in the city. It was like they didn't see me as a human, or maybe they were not humans. It was strange in the start and it would affect us, but then we got over it and it became something normal. Anyways, I enrolled in a university and started studying in a medical department. I learned the language and I graduated, but I still feel like I'm not home. As you know, that house was my childhood home. It has its own memories. I'm trying to adapt to all the differences. After all this time, some things are still hard. And you feel like society has accepted you and rejected you at the same time, like you stand in the middle. But with learning the language and them learning mine, you start to feel like you're getting closer and closer with the people. But to feel like you're a member of the community and one of its people is a tough task. See, people grow up. Some behaviors from 10 years ago left some psychological effects that could have got to me. But remembering it now, I'm realizing it's not worth dealing with them when I'm at such an age. You know, like, the brain has grown, so the behaviors have to grow too. The impression on the society is complete, mature and calm, because in the end, we all share the suffering of the same fundamental problems, such as the absence of comfort. The older the person gets, the more they know what they want, and they start to focus less on the insignificant things. The most important thing to remember to move forward is to not be sorry for what has passed, but to look at what is to come.
زي ما الريف في العاصمة خلي ورايا دعاوي ميمة من عيلة فقيرة وبوزة ووالي لا اسمعنا عمدة ولا ولادي راكب كل وقت سرح بأفكاري.
I became a foreigner in my own land too. My story is a little bit different, but it represents a lot of people. My name is Balqis. I'm originally from Tunisia. And originally from Tabarqa, which is a city in the northwest, very beautiful, known for its sea, known for its beautiful houses with brick. But I had to leave it. I had to leave my family and go to the capital. It might seem like it was a choice, but it was a choice that was hidden in an obligation and necessity. And the reason was the economic gap between the different states inside the country. The capital and the coastal area is developed, but the interior cities were underdeveloped. The gap is huge and getting bigger and bigger with time. The universities, the best ones, the best job opportunities, they are all in the capital. Sometimes it tears me apart from the inside. It's true that I go to my hometown on holidays and I get to visit them more, especially after COVID, With the pandemic and the quarantines and the work from home, I got to go more to my hometown. I stayed there for a few weeks. But being away for a long time from the capital makes me lose my, balance, and I feel that I need to go back to the capital again and find my routine. When I go to Tabarqa, I get happy, but when I stay there a lot, I don't feel comfortable, and I go back to Tunis, the capital. I get tired and miss my family once in the capital, and I feel like I don't belong there, and I want to go back to my hometown, Tabarqa. I am literally internally displaced. Makes me wonder sometimes, what does home really mean? Really? Tunis became a mixed capital with a lot of people coming from different parts of the country. And like the song says, جاي من الريف للعاصمة, which means coming from the countryside to the capital. During Eid festivities, the people say, how beautiful is Tunis without Jbura, which is literally a word that is a negative one used to refer to a displaced person or someone that is not civilized, let's say. But at the end, we are all victims of an economic system that made us hate each other. It made us far away from ourselves and even our families. Sometimes people choose a new experience, a new place to get out of their comfort zone and to experience their own potential. But in my case, it was not my choice, but an obligation.
After all the stories we heard, the idea is that no matter how the places change, the people are still living in the same conditions and suffering from years and decades ago. But freedom and living safely and in peace, away from displacement and seizing of rights, places and homes. I would love to end the episode with what Martin Luther King said. Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The urge for freedom will eventually come. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to Aswatuna Podcast, a podcast project that is implemented by the associations Nahostcast and Midost and supported by the German Federal Foreign Office.